close that door. Walter.
Right on time again.
Good evening and welcome to the St. Charles Parish Council regular meeting and budget hearing on Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers in the parish courthouse. Please silence all electronic devices and remove all hats. This meeting is called to order with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance from Pastor Cody Cunningham with the First Baptist Church in Luling.
Let's pray. Father, we do thank you for your goodness and your grace. We thank you that in your kindness you've designed society in such a way where you've given governmental leaders as a gift to maintain justice, to work for the flourishing and the well-being of people. And so, God, we lift up these council members and all the proceedings that are going to take place tonight. We pray that they would lead with wisdom and with goodness and justice. And God, we ask for your blessings upon St. Charles Parish. And as well with the election tomorrow, we do just pray that you would guide us, Father. Help people to vote with wisdom. And we pray that your hand would be upon our nation. So God, we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Cunningham. Approval of minutes, regular meeting October 21st, 2024. A motion and a second is needed to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of October 21st, 2024. We have a motion by Ms. Skiba, second by Mr. Brouillet. Please cast your votes. And that passes unanimously with Councilman Fisher out for the evening. Reports, finance and administrative activities. File 2024-0350, Public Service Commission. Mr. Devontae Lewis is present. It's Commissioner, Public Service Commissioner. Pardon me.
No problem. Thank you, and good evening to all of you. For those who I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Devontae Lewis. I serve on the Louisiana Public Service Commission. I represent the 3rd District of Louisiana, which is encompassing of 10 parishes starting in Baton Rouge, ending in New Orleans, but does represent the vast majority, just shy of 40,000 residents here in St. Charles Parish. I do split the parish with my colleague, Commissioner Eric Schremetta, who has about 12,000. So I am honored to be here on behalf of not only myself, but the entire Public Service Commission to give you a brief update of the work that we are doing. In case you are not 100% familiar with Louisiana Public Service Commission, we are your utility regulatory body. So we regulate all private electric, water, wastewater, gas, sewage, pipelines, waste haulers, non-consensual tows, home good movers, taxi cabs, all fall under our regulatory authority, which, as you can see, is a very wide net of activities that we have taken on. And so we have recently taken some action on some items that I think is important for the parish to know, and then I will, of course, be happy to answer any questions that you have of our agency and the work that we're doing. One of the biggest I know is everyone talks about electric, so I'm going to start there with electricity. As you know, majority of you are Entergy Louisiana customers. The commission recently approved a rate hike of 2.3% for Entergy. That would be equivalent around $196 million of a rate increase. What does that mean here for the residents in St. Charles Parish would also be slightly higher than 2.3%. It would be at 3.2%. And the reason for that is in this rate case with Entergy, what we ended up doing is consolidating a rate schedule. So the way that we had historically made it is that historic Entergy customers, EGSL, so those customers who were part of Gulf states before Entergy bought them out, had one rate versus a rate that Entergy Louisiana customers, some of the newer residents in Shreveport or Bossier or Monroe had. And so what we did is we're consolidating that rate schedule. Because of that, we as ESGL customers, a lot of us here in South Louisiana, have significantly benefited from a lower rider. So we were not paying into some of the other upgrades that our northern residents in the state were paying. So in this rate case, we consolidated all those rates, which means we will see a slight uptick in our rates at the interim, while they will stay stagnant, and then we'll all meet for one flat rate across the state in 2026. So that would equal around an $11.97 rate increase by 2026. But in this rate case, we also won some significant benefits for Louisiana customers. We received $260 million worth of customer credits that will show up in people's bills over the next years from settling lawsuits that we had with Entergy for some of their plants that they were operating. We eliminated reconnection and disconnection fees. We have lowered the late penalty for payments from 5% to 1.5%. We have increased our senior citizens Entergy discount to about $36, as well as we've created a low-income affordability working group that will continue to study and evaluate all of the affordability programs that Entergy Louisiana has offered. Along within that rate case, we did also settle some lawsuits from Grand Gulf Nuclear Facility that is currently being operated by Entergy. The commission had sued Entergy, saying that this was a uneconomical plant that was running and overcharging our customers. And so with that, we received an additional $78 million that our customers will receive back from that plant, as well as a commitment from Entergy to sell off those assets, meaning no longer will those show up in residents' bills. And so those notices of this increase went into effect in September, and I will, of course, keep you posted on all of that. As well, the commission did also approve Entergy Louisiana selling off their gas portions to a new gas company owned by Bernhardt Capital called Delta Gas. So right now, Entergy had not only electric and gas operations, they filed to disinvest from their gas operations and sell to Bernhardt. The commission evaluated this. We approved this earlier in August. It is still pending because Entergy New Orleans is still dealing with their case before the City Council of New Orleans, who is the regulator for the residents of New Orleans. And then after that, within a year, then the final sale of your gas provider going from Entergy, if you are an Entergy gas customer, would now be Delta Gas. The commission also is taking significant steps to help lower all of our customers' bills. So typically, we've allowed the utility to run what we call energy efficiency programs on their own. These are programs that allow you to get installation, windows, LED light bulbs, replacing multiple items that could help reduce your consumption rate. The commission earlier this year decided to take steps in our own hand and take away the energy efficiency programs from the utility providers, and we will have one state-operated program that anybody across the state, no matter what your utility is, can request funds to repair your home and reduce your energy bill. We have recently hired our administrator, and this program is due to go online in 2026. But we will, of course, be in a lot of communication with you to make sure that all of your constituents know about this program, along with the other assistance programs that are offered by the Louisiana Housing Corporation when it comes to heating and cooling assistance, as well as weatherization dollars. So those are some of the major things that we have taken on recently, and I will briefly end with some of the things that are still under review for the commission. I will tell you, one of the things that I learned when I got to the commission 2 years ago is that we are not much of a legislative body as many people think we are. We are very much a judicial body that requires interventions and filings and direct testimony, so a lot of our work does take a significant amount of time because we often operate on a judicial calendar more than a legislative calendar. So some of the items that we still have underway right now is we do have a open proceeding on pole viability to ensure that we are replacing broken adjudicated poles across the state. One of the challenges that we run into is what we call pole attachments, and a dispute between our electric providers and our telecommunication providers. So oftentimes when you may see a half-cut pole, part of the reason is one of them replaced their pole and the other utility has not cooperated in removing their attachments off of them. So if you drive around, you may see one of those poles may be an AT&T pole. They've come out and replaced it. They didn't coordinate with Entergy. Entergy didn't take their equipment off, so they cut the pole, and now it's required of Entergy to move their equipment to the new pole and then take out that other pole. We're seeing this across the state, which is a significant problem, especially as we talk about hurricane preparedness. And so what we are doing at the commission is undergoing a new rule that would force coordination between telecommunication and electric providers to ensure that they are working together to when they adjust and remove poles, that they are communicating and not leaving our communities at risk with poles that are outdated and falling apart. We're also currently still working on a proceeding on grid maintenance to increase our standards of what it means to have a reliable, sustainable grid. One of the challenges that we face in Louisiana is we do have the most unreliable grid in the nation, which I do not think is a point to brag about. According to the Energy Information Agency in 2022, the national average was 1.3 interruptions for an average of 1 hour per customer. In Louisiana for that very year, we had per customer 3.3 outages for an average of 8 hours. So there is significant work that we have recognized at the commission and we are taking very seriously. Just 2 months ago, I opened a proceeding that would increase our penalties for reliability, and also looking at reliability when it comes towards census tract and the distribution level. And so not to get too technical, but one of the ways that the commission has been tracking reliability is what we call on safety SAIDI, which is our system averages. So we're just looking at your entire system. How well does your system perform? If you fall under a provision, you are fined. Last year, Entergy was fined $10 million for that. What I am proposing at the commission is we're going a little bit deeper instead of your system, looking at your distribution level. So that means we are looking at zip code level data. We are looking at census block outages, and then requiring you to meet a standard for each one of those. So you're not only just repairing 2 items, let's say in North Louisiana, and you don't do anything here in St. Charles Parish, but you don't get fined because your system average improved rather than your regional average. We are also investigating whether or not we should put penalties for utility companies to customers. So we are evaluating whether or not you would get a customer credit for every time your power is out on a fair weather day. So those are days that we describe as not related to any significant weather or major event, as well as looking at credits per hour that you are out as a way to ensure that we fix and respond to the grid. So we will keep you definitely posted on those 2 items. We're also looking at resiliency and ensuring that the system can withstand as we see these storms are extremely strong. I will say the system, while not great, did significantly better during Hurricane Francine. When we tracked 2 storms that had a very similar path, we had around 1.2 million Louisianians who lost power in Hurricane Gustav and Hurricane Delta, which were very similar paths, one a little stronger, one a little weaker than Hurricane Francine. At the high point of Hurricane Francine, we had just 410,000 Louisianians without power, and within 24 hours, 64% of those had been restored. So we are pleased to see that some of the investments that have been made are improving our grid, but there is still significant work to be done. And the last 2 things that I'll say, and then I will stop and, of course, entertain any questions. We are working on 2 important documents. One about customer notification to improve the communications between the utilities and their customers, making sure that when there is a rate proceeding, there is a public hearing in each parish of their jurisdiction, as well as enhancing their notification policies. Right now, the commission only requires them to do a public notice in the official journal when they file their rate case. So they are not required when they amend it, when we approve it, to notify customers. So we are looking to update that. As well as we have an important docket around ensuring that your utility bills are not being used for political spending. We will take a vote in December to ensure that charitable donations, political donations, private jets, and corporate benefits are no longer included in your rate schedule. And so these are just a few. I will tell you, the commission has over 3,875 open proceedings right now, so I tried to just pull a few of the most interesting ones for you, but I hope this is my first time before you. This is only my second year in office. As I said, my district in the redistricting process of 2022 took the vast majority of the parish that traditionally was in District 1 with Commissioner Scrimetta. So I hope, while this may be my first, this will definitely not be my last over the next 5.5 years that I have of my term. But I will stop there and entertain any questions that I can answer on behalf of the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Any council discussion? Parish President Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Devontae, it's good to see you. For those who don't know, I was student government president at Nicholls State University the same year that Devontae was student government president at McNeese. The Colonels did beat you guys in football this year, 24-19. It was a close game, but we did win. I do have some questions regarding. My first question is regarding streetlights. Okay, so St. Charles Parish is charged a fee per streetlight, and that's a monthly charge, and that charge usually includes, at least for Entergy's sake, the installation of the light and the continued maintenance on the light. Anytime the light breaks, they come out and fix it. They create a work order to come out and fix it. I will tell you that process with Entergy is very slow. They won't allow our contractor, because we have our own light poles. The metal light, we usually say the metal light poles are the ones we have control over. Anything on a wooden pole is Entergy. So it takes a long time for us to get those fixed through Entergy because they won't allow our contractor to touch them. And that's their right. They reserve the right to do that. What I want to talk about is like the reliability of those sodium halide bulbs or whatever you would call them. One thing I've learned is that those bulbs are becoming harder to find. But currently, the LED cost for streetlights monthly is more than it is for the sodium bulb. I understand that there's a little bit higher upfront cost with an LED, but they're far more efficient and they don't break as regularly as the older type of bulbs. I've been asking for a few years now, but they need to, the commission needs to, and let me just back up. Every time I ask Entergy about it, they say, oh, the commission approved that and, that's the rate structure. The commission has to change that. So one of the things I want to ask is that we change that rate structure to allow LED bulbs, LED streetlight to be a lower monthly fee. That way it incentivizes us to make that switch. I'll tell you what I've done after Hurricane Ida is mandated that all the bulbs that we have on our metal poles be switched out by our contractor, and anytime one of those breaks, be switched out to an LED. Now, you can tell the difference when you're going down the street.
Yeah.
They glow a little bit differently, but slowly but surely, we're making it there, and then we see it on the back end because those street lights are on meters throughout the parish. So that's one of the ones I just want to ask you, that if we can create the incentive for local governments to make that transition to the to the LED, which is more efficient, that would be great. And I'll pause there if you have any.
No, absolutely. No, this is something that every time I attend a parish council, this is a topic that comes up quite frequently. So in that recent rate case with Entergy, we did do some adjustments to their street light tariff. And so I will have to pull it up for you, Mr. President. I don't have it off the top of my head. So there were some adjustments made. You were particularly right. These fluorescent light bulbs are actually not even in manufacturing according to the rate tariff right now. So what we did is we did lower that rate structure for LED lights. I'm not sure if we went as low that would incentivize it totally, but it should work on that. We also do have an open proceeding on street lights. I didn't mention it in my presentation. because this has been a challenge that we've had. Traditionally, one of the challenges has been that's not here, but that is in some of the other parishes that I represent, is a disagreement between Entergy and the parish government on which streetlight belongs to which entity. And so that has been a hardship. I would say, and I'd be remiss that, I believe all of you should have received an email from my office a few months ago around our public entities energy efficiency program. The commission has approved a program that allows any public building, public facility, government building, government equipment to request grant dollars from each commissioner to make improvements. I know I've approved some grants for some of the schools here in St. Charles Parish and some of the recreational centers, but that's also another avenue that we can do to help reduce those costs, is looking, and my office will get on that with you, looking to see if we could use some of those dollars already set aside for those investments to help modernize the streetlights here.
I appreciate that. My second question involves energy discounts. If my understanding is correct, at least I think I remember this from a few years ago, the residents pay around 8 cents a kilowatt hour, or is that correct? Is it?
For on their rate structure?
Yeah, just the residential power is about 8
Yeah,
cents a
yeah,
kilowatt hour.
our rates are around about 8 cents per kilowatt
Okay.
hour.
And then on the industry side, they get kind of a volume discount if they meet a certain criteria, which I think is around 6 cents a kilowatt hour, if I recall correctly. Does the commission have to approve that discount, or Entergy can just give that discount on their own?
No, that's an approval discount. Typically, what happens in the dispute between residential and industrial, and I should back up, when you think about all of the power that is consumed in Louisiana, one of the most unknown facts is 70% of every kilowatt that is used in energy consumption in the state, 70% of it is from a large industrial or commercial user. Only 30% of the energy that we need in Louisiana goes to residential users. Because they are using that volumetric rate structure that has been approved by the commission, they are typically finding themselves with a higher transmission cost because they are utilizing more of the transmission lines, or we're more on residential distribution. So those are put in their rate structure. Those are what we would call a tariff that each utility files. Now, they can file outside of the rate case an opportunity to adjust those tariffs, and so we look at those tariffs. While there's multiple tariffs, I mean, if you want to power your house with entire renewable energy, there's a tariff for that. And so oftentimes if you go to Entergy, that's not publicly displayed as much, but there are different rate structures that residential users have at their hand. It's just not easily available.
The reason I ask that question is because when I look at industry power consumption now, I would say St. Charles Parish is probably equivalent to a small refinery. Just over the past 4 years that I've been in office, we've paid $18 million to Entergy for electricity. And I know that, you know, when you look at it individually, we have a bunch of different meters, right? We have 350 lift stations throughout the parish, and those things are running around the clock. We've transitioned a lot of our pump stations to these 500,000 horsepower electric motors that draw a significant amount of energy when they're operating. But we are using a large amount of electricity, and I just want to know if is it a possibility that someone like a local government that is using a tremendous amount of electricity can get a discount similar to the way industry does on power?
I think so. It is possible, and we can definitely work with you to maybe file a proceeding and do a tariff. I would say one of the things that we are working on, or that I've been extremely passionate about, is really disrupting kind of the model of energy production. As you can all imagine, we are seeing significant growth from industry, from electrification, which means our grid has multiple opportunities. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is how do we incentivize everyone to go from a consumer of energy to also a prosumer, I like to call them. So where you are producing and consuming energy. And so one of the things we're looking at is revising our net metering rules. So it means if you are building self-generation and you have that excess capacity that you're selling it to the grid, you're getting credit for those. If you are utilizing less energy, whether it is through electrification, weatherization, energy efficiency, that you seek those benefits, right? Because I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest take that we're going to see is how do we reduce energy usage. And so that's a real possibility, but we're looking at it from a multitude of ways of having maybe aggregators come and aggregating your data to showcase you where you can find savings, and then really pushing what I've been pushing, which is demand response, which is the concept of utilizing energy at the right time and the right period. One of our biggest challenges, I think, that consumers just don't know is that I like to remind people, energy is like your old cell phones. At a certain time of day, it just costs more. And oftentimes we don't do a good enough job educating people that if everyone goes home and you start washing your dishes and your laundry at 5 o'clock, you're paying a lot more than you would do if you waited till 7 o'clock to wash those dishes and wash that car. And so what can we do to incentivize not only residentials but also local governments on demand response, whether that's heat pump control systems, has been one of the biggest things that we've been talking about is how much controls can benefit you. And so those are possibilities that my office can definitely work with you on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And some of the times, and I get this, is like sometimes like with wastewater pumps, lift stations, we really can't control when those run. They just got to run when they have to. And Grant, I would probably say that's our biggest consumer of electricity. And I know it just kills our wastewater budget every year when we're paying, the amount of electricity that we pay. And so we've been looking at ways to upgrade our pumps and get more efficient pumps, variable drive pumps that will ramp down and ramp up, that consume less electricity. But just be on the lookout. We'll formally request, a proceeding on this from you.
Absolutely, and we can still also look at that grant funding to help cover some of those costs as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell. Councilman Pile.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Devontae, I was interested in your approach toward replacing the poles and coordinating between the different utilities, down here, Entergy and Cox and AT&T, and you're right. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, so one ignores the other. How will you be able to inspect and assure that coordination takes place? I mean, do you have the staff to do that, or do you contract it out?
Yes, so in the proceeding right now, the rule that we have developed that the commission hasn't taken a vote on would create a new tracking system that would require every pole to be registered in one uniform tracking system with the owner and then with every pole attachment on it. So therefore, now the system that we would build would require the utilities to constantly report their maintenance schedules of all of those poles, the changes of the pole attachments, then the commission would then be able to then fine appropriately if in the system, let's say it's an Entergy pole, they say, hey, I'm going to replace this pole on November 5th. They notify Cox. Cox chooses not to show up, leaves their pole attachment, which requires Entergy to cut the pole, leave it hanging, because legally they are not allowed to touch the attachment of another utility. And so that's been part of the problem. So we're hopeful that this new tracking system that the commission will require all utilities to pay into and maintain would then be able to then force that coordination and then also hold the fines that we do put in place for delinquent poles. We also have approved a bunch of advancements of when a pole needs to be taken out of compliance. And so what we've done is we've changed our rate recovery. So for instance, if a storm happens and a pole that we go in the system and says should have been replaced 3 years ago, you no longer will get rate recovery for that pole. Or if that pole is at 15 years in a 20-year cycle and a hurricane, God forbid, comes through, takes that pole down, we would only give you recovery for the 5 years remaining of that pole, which is under our current system, a utility would get a brand new pole, which is oftentimes why we see there may not be as many replacements, anticipating a car wreck or anticipating a storm to knock that pole out. Then now I get the full coverage of a new pole rather than having to use some of my operation and maintenance expenditures.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering, though, is there something like an inspection corps or a contractor that you have to go out and ensure that work has actually happened and has been coordinated between the various entities?
Yes, sir. In the pending rule that hopefully we will vote on at the beginning of next year, we do have an independent monitor that will do a subsample of all the poles that exist and do constant maintenance and routine checks, as well as the engineering firm. Right now, CSRS is our engineering firm that the commission has hired to evaluate the rule, and I believe we would then continue that contract to evaluate progress if the rule is implemented.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Pilay. Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming in. One of the questions that I have is, well, actually, you had mentioned about the senior citizen discount. Is that upcoming or is it currently going on now?
It is currently going on right now, so any Entergy Louisiana customer who qualifies for Medicare Part B is eligible for a senior citizen discount on their utility bill. It's around $36. We increased that in this last rate case that we approved earlier this year.
Okay. So the residents, so how would they know, how would they would have found out about this Medicare Part B discount?
Yeah, so this has been one of the challenges that we've had, which is why I talked about the customer notification rule that we're still working on. It is up to, right now, it would be the customer service division of Entergy. One of the challenges that we're having, and we're looking at that, is they have pretty much outsourced majority of their call centers, which means there's an information gap. But what we do request is if you have constituents who are struggling with utility bills, to contact their commissioner. The vast majority of your constituents would be me. And in my office, we have an entire team who works with a dedicated team at all of the utilities on customer notification to ensure that they are aware of the low-income programs that they qualify for, energy efficiency programs that are offered, as well as these senior programs. So we also request them that when they do call Entergy's office and request more information, but if also they're struggling, I'll make sure all of you have my office's information to then also contact us, and we will work on those cases individually.
Okay, and one more question. On the grids, so that's upcoming, possible upcoming on credits and everything with the grids. So can you put down zip code 70057, because we have had several outages with nice weather under that zip code. So whenever you're looking at that, definitely that zip code.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's been one of my commitments, is that we have to really evaluate reliability at a zip code level, and even at even more granular at a census block, to make sure that we're making the necessary investments in communities that are seeing significant outages and equipment. And that's been one of the challenges about the grid, is the grid is not as easy as many people think. I would tell you, sometimes when you're looking and you say, hey, why is my little street without power but everyone across the street is? It's typically because there may be a distribution line that is connected elsewhere. As we did development, the grid didn't keep up. So sometimes there's a part of the block that is connected maybe 3 miles away to another distribution or feeder line, whereas maybe these houses that were built within the last 10 years are connected to a different substation. And so we'd like to tell that to people, not saying that that is a reasonable excuse, but that's sometimes why you may see where there's a street where one side of the street is lit up and the other side of the street is not lit up. It's just they are actually connected to two very different grids.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Lewis, on the discounts, do you know if there are any informational flyers about that perhaps our public information office could share with our residents?
Yes, I will make sure to send those in. I know that especially when it comes to LAHEAP, which is the heating and cooling and water assistance.
Have that program.
You have
yes,
that, and then we'll
do.
make sure to get you Energy Solutions, which is the energy efficiency upgrades from Entergy that provides funds to replace windows and HVACs and all of that, and as well as these customer credits. So my office will follow up and make sure that, and the senior discounts.
Specifically,
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll make sure we'll get that to you.
Thank you very much for the very detailed report. Really appreciate it.
Please, anytime, please feel free to reach out to my office, and we will gladly help with anything electric, water, and all the other things that we do at the commission.
Thank you,
Thank you, Madam
Commissioner Lewis.
Chairwoman.
Okay, file number 2024-0351, Housing Authority, Mr. Jedediah Jackson.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, council members, Parish President Jewell. Thank you. It's great to see everybody again. Saw you all last week. And thank you. My name is Jedediah Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority. I've served in that capacity since July 1st. And it is my pleasure on behalf of our Board of Commissioners, our staff, and our Booty and HCV residents to come before you to present our 2023-2024 annual report. The mission of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority is to provide safe, decent sanitary housing for low to moderate income families throughout St. Charles Parish. As a housing authority, we currently have 46 low-rent public housing property residents at our Booty property, and we support 261 current Housing Choice Voucher Program holders who reside in St. Charles Parish. Within our last fiscal year, which runs from October 1st to September 30th, we have seen the optimism and morale of the agency staff increase. We have seen the residents benefit from a better level of service for a better quality of life, and we appreciate the support of our federal, state, and local partners, of which the parish government is one, in helping us to achieve our goals and meet our mission of decent, safe, and sanitary housing for St. Charles Parish families. I would like to briefly go over a few of the accomplishments and strengths that we have achieved as a housing authority over the last year, as well as some opportunities for improvement and process updates. On our public housing side, we are very happy to announce a significant increase in our property assessment indicator. HUD has a 0 to 100 metric that is used to assess the care that a public housing property takes with its property responsibilities. Our last score was an 18 from an inspection that was completed in 2023, and that did put us into trouble status as an agency. This year, due to the hard work and diligence of our board, our staff, residents at the Booty property, and our stakeholders, we achieved a score of 77. This is an accomplishment to be lauded, as rarely do scores increase that much over a year period. And with other indicators seeing improvement, we hope to transition from troubled status to a higher designation. We also achieved a public housing program score of 100% in our Public Inventory Center, or PIC system. That system indicates that our annual and interim resident reexaminations and property inspections were done timely and in accordance with HUD regulations. As to the condition of the Booty property, we completed the renovation of 15 units, repainted the interior of 31 units, repaired the soffit and fascias at a number of units, we striped the parking areas and pressure washed all units. As a result, we have housed 14 new families within the last fiscal year at our Booty property, and we have developed a master work order spreadsheet to address units, the remaining 13 that are vacant, which have been vacant for more than 60 days, to bring them back online to house additional families. We've also secured a commitment from the postmaster to place cluster mailboxes at the Booty property to improve the receipt of mail for our families. We're currently working out the details on that, but we work daily in a variety of ways to improve the quality of life for our families. Lastly, for our strengths on the public housing side, we received approval from HUD on a 5-year and annual plan, as well as our capital fund grant and operating fund grant submissions. And these submissions were done timely and have greatly improved our compliance with HUD regulations. As to our HCV Section 8 program, we have successfully housed 39 applicants from our waiting list this year and added 9 new landlords to make more quality housing available to voucher holders in the parish. We're working to facilitate a quarterly tenant and a quarterly landlord webinar before the end of the year, or no later than the first quarter of 2025, to allow for improved communication of program regulations and changes, fair housing responsibilities for both tenant and landlord, and other information that will surely bolster our program. Our PIC score for Section 8 was 99.5, and that is up from a 98.5, and we're sure that will be 100% before long. And our Section 8 program remained a standard performer due to increased CMAP scoring, which is the metric by which HUD uses to assess Section 8 program performance. We hope to grow to a high performer over the next assessment. And lastly, as a strength for all of our programs, we have transitioned to a new fee accountant. 76 Strategies is our fiscal agent, and we have also seen improved responsiveness for budgeting, reporting, and fiscal accountability. We are in the process of recruiting for our finance director position, which is a new position, and we'll be closing that announcement this week to begin reviewing applications and interviewing candidates. Lastly, for our program strengths, we have secured the services of the Housing Agency Marketplace, which is a procurement portal for housing authorities run by a former HUD official. And this portal will allow for vendor registration, for vendors to respond to solicitations, and for the scoring of proposals to ensure that procurement is handled in compliance with HUD regulations and Louisiana public bid law. What we are working every day to do as it relates to our opportunities for improvement is to improve communication at every level of our organization. We anticipate that the tenant and landlord conference calls will be a good first step in our public-facing communication, but we're looking to incorporate an upgraded website, mass and email texting capability, and looking into other avenues to bolster our ability to communicate with residents, our stakeholders, and the public at large. And we invite all members of the general public to attend our monthly Board of Commissioner meetings at 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of every month here in the council chambers. Public housing on both the low rent and Section 8 sides should be seen as a strength of any modern community that understands the importance of all socioeconomic levels of its resident population. And we want to make sure that we communicate our intentions to inform, to educate, and support and the strength and vitality of public housing in St. Charles Parish, as is our mission to do so. We do have a couple of process updates to briefly discuss. First, we, as are a number of housing authorities in the country, are currently in what is called a Section 8 shortfall prevention program. As the cost of housing has increased nationwide and the rents have been slow to keep up, many housing authorities that provide Section 8 vouchers to families are currently unable to do so due to their housing assistance payments, which is what funds all Section 8 vouchers, those payments being less than what is needed to keep up with the cost of rent versus what they are given for the cost of the voucher. And we're currently affected by this despite the shortfall, despite the projection of a positive financial position. And because of the shortfall prevention process, we're unable right now to issue new vouchers to our waiting list participants. And this has been the case since September, but we do anticipate being removed from this process due to the projected positive financial position in the near future. And we do look forward to that pause ending so that we can position new voucher holders from our waiting list for success. The last process update relates to our streamlined voluntary conversion application. As was previously mentioned by, I'm sure, a number of my past predecessors to this council, the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority previously submitted a streamlined voluntary conversion application to HUD to reposition and renovate our Boutique property and renovate and rebuild our Hanville and Des Almonds properties to bring them back online to increase the available affording housing stock in St. Charles Parish. Well, unfortunately, after waiting through the prescribed review period, the Housing Authority was notified in September that the streamlined voluntary conversion application that was submitted was not able to be approved. Not that it was denied, but that it wasn't able to be approved. As this effectively created a pause pressed by HUD due to litigation elsewhere, and not through any fault of the authority or any of its stakeholders, the agency was told that we would have to pivot to another repositioning application, specifically the RAD Section 18 conversion. While this was a blow to all of us here, all of our community and government stakeholders, and to the residents that were anticipating conversion for all three properties, we understand that HUD is working to make the pivot and the timeline for approval as streamlined as possible. The RAD Section 18 blend conversion is another process that would allow the Housing Authority to convert and reposition its properties from traditional public housing, which usually has a minimal subsidy for property upkeep, to project-based vouchers with higher contract rents from HUD for each. And while our residents backed our plan, the RAD Section 18 conversion plan does have more resident protections in terms of the right for the resident to return. There will be a special board meeting the week of November the 11th to further discuss the pivot to this new process. For the sake of time, I will not get granular or too detailed with this, but know that we are continuing to work to accomplish our redevelopment through this new strategy, and we look forward to working with you and other stakeholders to determine how best we can accomplish our shared intentions of decent, safe, and quality affordable housing for St. Charles Parish residents. Our current public housing capital funds and reserves can be used to support the conversion, and HUD does underwrite the project to ensure viability. But we will be reaching out to stakeholders locally throughout the state affordable housing community and through federal partners for resources to ensure project feasibility and completion. And completion is still the goal. Despite the setbacks and challenges that we face, our housing authority is in a strong position for future success. We have improved in almost every metric where improvement was mandated and required. And we're moving forward with redevelopment of our housing stock to ensure, as I mentioned, safe and decent affordable housing for St. Charles Parish families. I thank you for your time this evening, and please let me know if you have any questions. And if for whatever reason I don't have an answer for that question, I will definitely follow back up with you to get you that answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any council member questions, comments? Gotta say, I'm a little disappointed to hear that.
No.
We've been hearing about it for, I guess this is 5 years now, and I was so hoping to hear you say that y'all were ready to move forward and the application had been approved. Do you have any idea, without getting too technical, about timeline for this new conversion process?
Sure, yeah. So, and thank you for that question, Madam Chair. So usually that process comes with at least 18-month timeline. Because we and a number of housing authorities that submitted streamlined voluntary applications at the same time find ourselves in the same situation. HUD has dedicated additional resources through their RAD desk for office hours, as well as streamlining the application process, so hopefully shortening that to a year.
Okay.
But we're looking for every avenue that we can to get the ball rolling as quickly as we possibly
Yeah,
can.
and stay on it, I guess,
Yes.
hopefully.
I am glad that they did provide, I'm sorry,
no,
I
go
am
ahead.
glad that they did provide some way to move it forward.
Right.
Because we want to make sure, as I mentioned, that the quality of our housing stock is where it needs to be
Yeah,
for our residents.
that is, I guess, the thank goodness side of it, that they didn't just stop it altogether. Just wanted to confirm that the Hornville and Des Allemands locations remain closed.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I do see another council member, Ms. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations on the numbers on the increase.
Thank you.
But my question is about the Hornville project. So as Councilwoman Fonseca had mentioned about what we have been hearing over the past 5 years about this project, entities coming in with different monies and everything. So as you stated that it was not approved by HUD, so the look of what we have been hearing for over the past 5 years, will the Hornville area still look the same as far as the housing, the way Ms. Leatrice had spoken of, the whole look, how it was going to look, just the whole project of it? Is it going to look the same, or it was going to be a little different, or you still have to wait for her to ask you, to pretty much tell you?
So I know that because of the condition of the Zalman project, property rather, it'll probably require a total tear down and rebuild. Hanville will probably be a mix of both. But again, with the change to the conversion, it does kind of change our financial outlook considerably because the rents were higher for the original application that we submitted versus the one that we're pivoting to. So to answer your question, it's our intention for there to be, like I said, a rebuild and also renovation if possible.
Okay, all righty.
Parish President Jewell.
I just want to say thanks for coming on board. I know, this is your first report to the council, and you got to report your budget to the council the other day. The phone conversation we had, we kind of talked about how it really wasn't in a good place, and I just have a lot of confidence seeing you here today that we're going to get to a better place with the overall housing authority and the properties that we have. I understand that this is a kind of a setback for us. We were kind of on the path, and I really was positive that you were going to get us all the way there. Obviously, this is out of your hands, and just appreciate everything you're doing, and just keep your eye on the ball, keep pushing forward. And I think affordable housing is a very important thing in the parish, and hopefully we can, make that improvement and serve more people throughout the parish.
Thank you, Mr. Parish President. Thank you.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell and Councilmember Wilson. Councilmember Peely.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I probably ought to know the answer to this before I ask this question, but are there similar opportunities on the East Bank? I know you mentioned Boutte and Des Allemands and Hanville on the West Bank. Are there similar opportunities on the East Bank that you're chasing?
So I have three goals for the Housing Authority, and that's something that we've been discussing with the staff and the board. Stability, making sure that we get to a point to where we are standard performers, because the troubled status does impact your operations. Then growth, which is completing what we already have online to complete, which would be those three converted properties. Development is definitely something that we have in our 5-year plan in terms of not only affordable housing, but we are a bit smaller, but most housing authorities do have home ownership programs. So definitely working to determine what housing stock is viable, what affordable housing partners exist in the parish, and leveraging the resources that we'll hopefully get once we're out of the troubled designated status to be able to produce and create more affordable housing on both sides of the river. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Jackson. I know you have your work cut out for you. I wish you lots of luck, and let's get that ball rolling again.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you all so very much.
File number 2024-0352, Parish President Remarks Report. Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman. We will start quickly with now Tropical Storm Raphael. Our Department of Emergency Preparedness and Homeland Security is closely monitoring the storm and the formation in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. There's a great deal of uncertainty in the forecast, but our EOC is ensuring that we are as ready as possible. And to that effect, we have seen, just due to the last few days of southerly winds or southeasterly winds, that the tide has come up. And so you will see folks from Public Works starting to sandbag areas, kind of critical areas down the bayou, up the bayou, and just getting ready for the potential to have to kind of pull the full trigger to protect those vulnerable areas of the parish. They also began their pre-storm pump station and fuel checks today, and again, worked on that surveying of up the Bayou Road for potential Haskell baskets and sandbags. East Bank Bridge Park groundbreaking. Today, we gathered and celebrated the kickoff to the work at the East Bank Bridge Park. These are going to mirror the improvements that we saw at the West Bank Bridge Park. Hard to tell in this photo, but the ground has already been broken. We did not want to hold the contractor up, so the contractor has been working to do a lot of the demolition out there. Again, the renovation is going to include 2 new turf fields, new grass outfields, LED lighting, new fencing, new tennis courts, and as well as 2 pickleball courts, a new batting cage, and a basketball court, as well as a reconfigured concrete parking area along River Road. Total cost of this project is $3.6 million, and with $500,000 coming from Valero, as well as $750,000 coming from state tax dollars. So that represents about a third of the project. So just another good story, similar to what we did on the West Bank with putting together multiple sources of funding to get these projects done and to stretch our taxpayer dollars as far as we can go. Moving on to Primetime Seniors coming in January. Last week, the Department of Parks and Recreation announced that a brand-new program for the St. Charles Parish seniors will launch in January. Primetime Seniors will broaden activities and offerings, reaching even more seniors through recreation, education, and social engagement. Activities offered through RSVP, such as the volunteer program, as well as our other programs, beanbag baseball, senior bowling, day trips, and those will remain along with the addition of new activities. We will host a launch event in January, and if you'd like to give us your contact information or your input about what you'd like to see, you can visit www.scpparksandrec.com/senior survey, or just give us a call at Recreation. Senior Fall Fest and Triad celebrations. Last week, the Community Center hosted 2 events for hundreds of seniors to learn about services available to them and to socialize as well as dance. This was also an opportunity for us to gather feedback for Primetime Seniors, again, launching in January. And we had a lot of great comments, and it was well received. We want to thank all who make this event possible, especially our Sheriff Greg Champagne. DeZalman's bulkhead update. I think we have a quick time-lapse video here. This is the installation of the stop log system at the boat launch. So the contractor came out and did the last fitting of this portion of the bulkhead wall. And so this took about 30 minutes for these folks to do. And obviously, once our guys train on it and, kind of get it under our belts, we expect the same amount of time to deploy it. So we're excited about this. If you had seen this area, I wish we had a photo of that, Sam. If you had seen this area after Ida, we had put a sandbag wall right there, and those sandbags were just completely toppled over due to the wave action from Hurricane Ida. And we had several portions, if you're facing this bulkhead here, several portions to the south that did receive some overtopping from wave action along the existing bulkhead. We do now have 2 additional feet of flood protection here, and phase 2 of this project, which will be from the railroad bridge, which you can see in the far end. I'm sorry, that's Highway 90, which you can see in the far end. So between Highway 90 and the railroad bridge, which is on the other side of Old Highway 90, is budgeted for the 2025 budget. So we're already seeing the benefit of this. We saw it during Francine with the fact that it took us half the time to get ready for a storm, and we want to continue that progress going up the bayou. So excited about that. Next, East Bank Waterworks Ida repairs. I know we've been updating the council on this pretty regularly, but we are about 3 weeks away from completing the repairs to the offices and the storage buildings. You can see there, they look pretty much complete. This new storage building is also going to have a covered awning where our crews can drive up and get equipment that they need to stay out of the rain or the heat. This is something that we don't have on the West Bank, but in the process of designing the project, we knew kind of what we wanted to help us, perform better. And one of the things is being able to keep your crews out of the rain when you're restocking a vehicle to go out to change valves or do other work. So that was added to this. We also have, is the intake improvements on the next slide? There we go. We also are fully underway on our work to repair the East Bank water intake. Just as a reminder, the intake was struck by a barge during Hurricane Ida and destroyed. So again, well underway. The contractor is clearing out the old pilings that were there. The new pilings are going in now. We expect that this new intake will be complete by June of 2025. And we do have temporary intake in place, so this does not impact our ability to make water. And at some point, they will transition over to the new intake. All right. We have best wishes for Honey, which is the puppy that our community rallied around after being rescued from horrible abuse. Honey was adopted by Summer, the woman who actually reported the abuse to the police. And our shelter staff took a bad situation and turned it into a positive one for all of our shelter residents. The contest to name Honey had 122 people who sent items like treats, peanut butter plus donations. And that was so overwhelming that we got to share it with all of the puppies and other animals at the animal shelter. So we're excited that Honey has a new home. Veterans Day Luncheon, Sheriff Greg Champagne and I are hosting our annual Veterans Day Luncheon on Thursday at the Community Center. All St. Charles Parish veterans, as well as their spouses, are welcome. We will have the Marine Corps Reserve Band and hear from our guest speaker, Dr. Ken Ortling, who is also a veteran, a Navy vet, and we hope to see our veterans celebrate their service and sacrifice this Thursday. We will then have the Senior Luncheon Thursday, December 12th at 11 a.m. at the Community Center. This is always a really big event, and we're trying to prevent some of the popularity where residents have to be turned away at the door. So due to that overwhelming popularity, we are asking that residents must pre-register for a ticket as well as to show their ID and put their information in for the ticket. They can get their ticket at scpseniorchristmas.eventbrite.com. That's scpseniorchristmas.eventbrite.com, or they can call us at RSVP at 985-783-8907. You have to be registered to come to the event. We're going to keep the registration open until we hit our capacity, which is 550 people. And then we will not be able to offer any more, unfortunately. And we look forward to that event. A little bit traumatic every year, but we look forward to it. September sales tax, let's talk about that's good news. Sales tax numbers for September collections were up 5.19%, which is an increase of 212,000 from this time last year. To date, we are now 2.22% above where we were this time last year. And as you can see, that represents about $757,761.33 of revenue over last year. So definitely a positive from where we started out this year, and we hope that trend continues. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Pele.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. President Jewell, the intake on the East Bank, is it designed with enough armoring so that it could withstand another barge in the future? I'm imagining it must be.
Well, that was one of the things that I told Waterworks when we designed it, to say, I know we can't prevent everything, right? But let's add some extra dolphins or whatever we got to do to armor it a little bit more. Greg, I know you're here if you want to say anything to that effect. I know we armored the West Bank. It looks a lot better than it did previously, but
Yes, Greg Gordon, Director, Department of Waterworks. Yes, extra dolphins are going to be put in as part of it, and general hardening of the intake.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Pele. Any other council discussion? I followed the progress with the daily reports for the puppy Honey, and I just have to say I was super impressed with Dr. Troxler's really current and innovative methods that she used to heal the puppy in such a short period of time, and get the puppy adopted out so quickly. So kudos to her and her staff, and really appreciate it. I know the community was very happy to see the outcome.
yeah, Dr. Troxler and her staff did a tremendous job. That puppy had better spot treatment than I think most people have ever gotten. Chinese aromatherapy, acupuncture, honey on the wounds, and which is why she got her name of Honey. But I was also very impressed at that as well.
All right. Ordinances, resolutions introduced for publication, public hearing, Monday, November 18th, 2024, 6 p.m., Council Chambers, Courthouse, Hornville. File number 2024-0362, 2024-0366, 2024-0367, 2024-0368, 2024-0369, 2024-0370. Planning and zoning petitions. File number 2024-0344, an ordinance to amend the St. Charles Parish zoning ordinance of 1981 to change the zoning classification from R1A to R1AM on property designated as the Stephen Kindler Lot, 11001 River Road, Ama, as requested by Michael Edsimo and Kristen Gilliford. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The request is to go from R1 to R1AM. It meets two of the three criteria. The Department and Planning Commission both recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2024-0344 is now open for public hearing. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, council members, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0344. And that passes unanimously. Ordinances scheduled for public hearing introduced at the previous meeting, file number 2024-0201, an ordinance to approve and adopt the appropriation of funds for the St. Charles Parish Consolidated Operating and Capital Budget for fiscal year 2025. We will begin with General Fund, page 75 in your book, account number 001-400-114, Council District 4, Mr. Commerdale.
Yes, I have no amendments for this budget at this time, so we'll accept the budget as printed.
Thank you, Mr. Commerdale. Okay, moving on to account number 001, General Fund -400-116, page 77, Council District 6, Councilman Fisher. On behalf of Councilman Fisher, he asked that we accept his budget as it's presented. Next, we'll go on to General Fund account number 001-400-240, page 92, Clerk of Court, Lance Marino. Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Actually, point of personal privilege here. We've been working with Clerk of Court Marino for several weeks now on a proposal to continue back scanning project that he has presented to the council directly. So I want to go ahead and go back to the beginning of this story here and say, since 2017, and even before that, the Office of the Clerk of Court has embarked on a large back scanning project to digitize court records, older court records. This year, the council was approached for the parish's assistance in continuing this project. Because the clerk's office has migrated its documents to a new user portal, backscanning contracts previously used for the backscanning program have become either obsolete or outdated. While the end users, the attorneys, title companies, real estate agents, would benefit from the completion of backscanning of mortgage records, the council does not have the necessary documents, the information, or the authority at this time to approve the project during this budget amendment. We look forward to working with the Clerk of Court to explore creative solutions to define this project within the new portal parameters in order to restart the backscanning program. However, there is a statute, the Louisiana Revised Statute 13784, that provides the clerk the opportunity to request the parish to assist the Clerk of Court's office with capital outlays. And Mr. Wu, could you speak to that particular statute and its requirements?
Yes, thank you. There's actually two statutes that apply to the duties of any political entity, any parish regarding the Clerk of Courts. That's established, as Ms. O'Daniels mentioned, in Revised Statute 13784 and Revised Statute 334713, specifically with regards to the Clerk of Courts. 4713 reads, in pertinent part, such offices, furnitures, and equipment as may be needed by the clerks and recorders of the parish for the proper conduct of their office. As Ms. O'Daniels mentioned, Revised Statute 13784 is a little bit more on point, specifically for the police jury to defray capital outlay expenses, clerk salary, fund surplus. Part A is what's applicable. Upon the request of the clerk, the police jury shall provide him with all necessary office furniture, equipment, and record books. So the requirements and obligations are set forth with specifically, with specificity to the necessary office furniture, equipment, and record books when it comes to determining what is necessary and reasonable. AG opinions, Louisiana law goes a little bit further into detail with regard to a two-prong analysis. The courts established a test to determine the reasonableness of an expense. First, the expense must be legitimate in that it relates to the function of the office. And secondly, the expense must be quantitatively reasonable. So there's a two-pronged test that's on a case-by-case basis for every request by a clerk of court. This is the same for, similar or the same for assessors and sheriffs. There's a little bit differences in each of those, but those are the primary two statutes, and that's the analysis that has to be made by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Ube. So in light of that analysis, I would like to make a motion to amend the budget for a particular portion of the clerk's request as follows. I'd like to make a motion to transfer $15,000 from the general fund 001 to fund 001-400240, clerk of court, for the purposes of account number 305, non-consumables, for record books from the vendor, and I'm going to mispronounce this name, but Quasar, Quoyser, which is the vendor that provides the clerk of court their record books. And that request will be in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 13784, request made by the clerk of court.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniels. We have a motion by Ms. O'Daniels, seconded by Councilman Pile. And the motion is to transfer $15,000 from the general fund 001 to the clerk of court's account 001-400-240 for the purpose of the record books for the vendor Quasar to account number 305, non-consumables. Okay, council members, you can cast your votes. That passes unanimously. I'd like to thank Councilwoman O'Daniels and Councilman Pile for the work that you did on this. Okay. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or any additional amendments to be made? Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I'd like to make one additional amendment, and this is a motion to transfer and reduce the District 5 council member budget for 2024 by the total amount of $32,000 from the following accounts. Account number 001-422-00000 in the amount of $2,300. Account number 001-424-1000 in the amount of $5,700. Account number 001-424-20000 in the amount of $2,900. Account number 001-425-0000 in the amount of $700. Account number 001-427-0000 in the amount of $2,000. Account number 001-428-0000 in the amount of $2,000. Account number 001-4305-0000 in the amount of $6,000. And account number 001-431-0000 in the amount of $1,600. And the residual, the travel account, which I believe Ms. Chair does have the number, in the amount of $8,800 to fund, general fund 001 for the purpose of reallocation of other funds. I'm making this motion first, and I'll make a secondary motion to reapportion those funds. So this is a motion to move those funds to the general fund.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman O'Daniels, seconded by Councilman Cummerdale. The motion is to transfer and reduce District 5 councilmember budget for 2024 by the amount of $32,000 from the following accounts. Account number 001-422-50, $2,300. Account number 001-4241-40, $5,700. Account number 001-4242-40, $2,900. Account number 001-425-50, 5 zeros, $700. Account number 001-427, 5 zeros, $2,000. Account number 001-428, 5 zeros, $2,000. Account number 001-4305, 4 zeros, $6,000. Account number 001-431, 5 zeros, $1,600, followed by account number 001-41 with 6 zeros, $8,800. To fund, General Fund 001 for the purpose of reallocation to other funds. That's the extent of this motion. So, council members, please cast your votes. That passes unanimously. Councilmember O'Daniels, would you like to continue?
Yes, Ms. Chair, thank you.
Okay.
Two additional motions to transfer those funds. The first motion is going to be a motion to transfer $20,000 from General Fund 001 to account 001-430234, Community Service Centers, Professional Services for tutoring at the St. Rose Community Center.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. There's a motion on the floor that requires a second. Thank you, Councilmember Wilson. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember O'Daniels with a second by Councilwoman Wilson to transfer $20,000 from the general fund account number 001-430234, Community Service Centers, Professional Services for tutoring for the St. Rose Community Center. Council members, please cast your votes. And that passes unanimously. Councilmember O'Daniels.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Another motion to transfer the remaining $12,000 from General Fund 001 to account 001-430231, Community Service Rentals for rental assistance.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Daniels. We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember O'Daniels, second by Councilwoman DeBruyer. It is a motion to transfer $12,000 from General Fund 001-430231, Community Services Rentals. Council members, please cast your votes. That also passes unanimously. Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a budget amendment from my District 1 2024 budget. I want to transfer $8,500 by reducing my current budget, printing $600, postage and box rent $1,000, contractual services $400, professional services $500, and non-consumable office supplies of $6,000, which totals $8,500. To be transferred to Kelowna Community Center $2,900, professional services, tutoring services. Booty Outreach Center $2,800, professional services, tutoring services. And energy utility for light and power, $2,800 for community services, which is, that account number is 001-430232.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilson. We have a motion on the floor that requires a second. Thank you, Councilman Commerdale. Okay, motion by Councilmember Wilson, second by Councilmember Commerdale, and it is to transfer funds from the 2024 District 1 budget of $8,500, reducing account number 001-422 with 5 zeros by $600. Account number 001-4241 with 4 zeros by $1,000. Account number 001-427 5 zeros by $400. Account number 001-428, 5 zeros by $500. And account 001-4305 with 4 zeros, $6,000 for a total of $8,500. Transferred to $2,900 for the Kelowna Community Center, $2,800 for, and that's for tutoring services, $2,800 to the Booty Outreach Center, also for tutoring services, and the remainder of $2,800 to account 001-430232 to Entergy Utilities for lighting and power. All right, council members, please cast your votes. That passes unanimously. Any other comments, amendments, or questions by council members on the proposed 2025 budget? Okay, seeing none. File number 2024-0201 is now open for public hearing. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding any of the items that we have discussed so far, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any further council discussion? Okay, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0201, an ordinance to approve and adopt the appropriation of funds for the St. Charles Parish Consolidated Operating and Capital Budget for fiscal year 2025 as amended. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0341, an ordinance to approve and authorize the execution of a professional services agreement by and between St. Charles Parish and Hunt Gio and Associates, LLC, to perform program administrative/management services in the implementation of the St. Charles Parish CDBG-Disaster Recovery Program in the amount of $185,000. We have Ms. Baracco here to explain.
As stated, this ordinance, with your support, is going to allow us to contract with Hunt Gilliatt and Associates to assist the grants office with complying with CDBG grant requirements associated with our Resilient Communities Infrastructure Program projects. These requirements can often be extensive and complex, and your support in moving this agreement is appreciated. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. File number 2024-0341 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0341. That passes unanimously. File number 2024-0342, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a change order number 2 for the Willowdale Turn Lane, project number P230804, to increase the contract amount by $45,876.93. Mr. Bingham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is change order number 2, which will be the final change order for this project. It involves modifications to the guardrail to avoid conflicts with some of the utilities who are in that area. Repair of a base failure that appeared after the project was underway that was not in the project, and an adjustment of all the final quantities to match the existing quantities that were used. And we'd appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Bingham. File number 2024-0342 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, council members, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0342. And that passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
File number 2024-0343, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with professional engineering consultants to perform engineering services for West Bank D Plant Clarifier Upgrade, project number WWKS 114, in the amount of $317,066. Mr. Gordon.
Good evening, Council. Greg Gordon, Director of Waterworks. Just gonna, based on our admin comment that we submitted to y'all, but just to read it off. So the Department of Waterworks has determined that the West Bank Water Treatment Plant's declarifier needs an upgrade and will replace all the components and contents of the declarifier to improve operational efficiency and extend the useful life of the clarifier. The department wishes to contract with professional engineering consultants to perform the plan development, advertising, bidding, and construction administration for the West Bank D Plant Clarifier upgrade. Basically, this is a renewal and replacement. The clarifier, which is part of the D treatment train at the plant, deals with about 40% of the water that's produced at the plant. This is going to be basically taking the guts out of that clarifier and replacing it. It should be a pretty straightforward project, but necessary and needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. File number 2024-0343 is now open for public hearing. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0343. And that passes unanimously. Persons to address the council, file number 2024-0361, Bishop Otis Kenner II, Civic Source Fees and Procedures. The petitioner submitted written correspondence requesting to withdraw this petition to address the council. Resolutions, file number 2024-0349, a resolution in support of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of 2024-7-SPU for an accessory dwelling unit in an R1A zoning district on Lot 164, South Lakewood Subdivision, 121 Lake Catherine Drive, Luling, with a waiver from Appendix C, Section 6, Item B 1 2B 5, as requested by Brad and Anna Keller. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The request is for an accessory dwelling unit. The commission approved this conditionally. Revised plans have been received and are in your agenda. The department recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2024-0349 is now open for public comment. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Councilwoman DeBruyer.
Yes, this is in my district, and I've spoken with the family and looked at the plans, and I fully support this, and I ask my colleagues to support it as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeBruyer. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0349. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0353, a resolution approving Amendment Number 1 to the St. Charles Parish Restore Act Multi-Year Implementation Plan for submission and approval to the U.S. Department of Treasury in accordance with the requirements of the Restore Act. Ms. Baracco.
Cole Baracco for the Grants Office again. This resolution is to approve Amendment Number 1 to the Restore Act Multi-Year Implementation Plan, and this amendment is to include the DeSalman's boat launch to the existing plan. This amendment was posted for public comment from September 6th through October 21st, with no meaningful comments being received. And upon your approval, the amendment package will be submitted to Treasury for review. Once approved by Treasury, we will then be able to submit an application to use the funds towards the construction of the DeSalman's boat launch.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco. File number 2024-0353 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Councilman Piet.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Ms. Baraka, do you have any idea, I looked all over, but how much money we might be talking about?
So it should be in the resolution. It was $514,008.95 as of April 17th, 2024. And typically we get allocations in October and April.
Thank you, and sorry for my
No
blindness.
problem.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council discussion? Please cast your votes for file number 2024-0353. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0354, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of Treasury and the State of Louisiana and St. Charles Parish regarding the allocation of $150,000 to be utilized for the Engineers Canal Pump Station Improvements Project. Ms. Baracco.
As you stated, it's to complete the pre-construction services for the Engineers Canal Pump Station improvements. Cajun Industries is going to be the contractor completing the work. The work may include such items as clearing and demolition, drainage excavation and dewatering, testing and inspection services for topographic, subsurface utility field investigations, those sorts of things.
Thank you. File number 2024-0354 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Councilman Piet.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I had a call today from former Councilman at Large, Bobby Donaldson, who was a part of the process of selecting the Seymour contractor, and he voiced his absolute support to this, and I just wanted to pass that on to you, and I appreciate anybody else's support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Piet. And on behalf of Councilman Fisher, who is the District 6 council member, I know he would want me to ask for the support of our colleagues on this one. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0354. That passes unanimously. File number 2024-0355, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of the Treasury and the State of Louisiana and St. Charles Parish regarding the allocation of $500,000 to be utilized for the East Bank Bridge Park revitalization. Ms. Baracco.
This is $500,000 of the $750,000 that President Jewell spoke about in his report. And it's to revitalize and repair the East Bank Bridge Park. Jones Construction Services is going to be the contractor completing the work. The work's going to include such items as the installation of the turf fields, LED lighting, fencing, dugout, shade sails, pickleball courts, and renovating tennis courts.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco. File number 2024-0355 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0355. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0356, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of the Treasury and the State of Louisiana and St. Charles Parish regarding the allocation of $250,000 to be utilized for recreational improvements. Ms. Baracco.
This is the remaining $250,000 that he spoke of the $750, used for the same as previous. Work's going to include the installation of turf fields, LED lighting, fencing, dugout, shade sails, pickleball courts, renovating tennis courts, and Jones Construction Services is going to be the contractor.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco.
Thank you.
File number 2024-0356 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, council members, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0356. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0357, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of the Treasury and the State of Louisiana and St. Charles Parish regarding the allocation of $150,000 to be utilized for the Primrose Canal Bank Stabilization Phase 1 project. Ms. Baracco.
Yes, ma'am. It's $150,000 for the Primrose Canal Bank Stabilization Phase 1 project. Omega Foundation Services is the contractor that's going to be doing the work. The work's going to include cleaning and strengthening the canal that runs adjacent to Primrose Drive.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco. File number 2024-0357 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, council members, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0357. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0358, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of the Treasury and the State of Louisiana and St. Charles Parish regarding the allocation of $50,000 to be utilized for municipal mowing in District 2. Ms. Baracco.
This cooperative endeavor agreement is for the $50,000 to complete the municipal mowing within the parish-owned rights-of-way in District 2. And this work is going to be completed by the Department of Public Works.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco. File number 2024-0358 is now open for public comment. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Parish President Jewell.
I just want to clarify that this is DOTD District 2. It's not just going to be Heather Skiba's district getting all the mowing. Just so you know. And we are separated by 2 separate districts. One, there's a different district on the East Bank than there is the West Bank.
Parish President Jewell, is this agreement in lieu of?
So through the Parish Presidents of Louisiana Association, which is a group of parish presidents that like to gripe about things that parish presidents gripe about, during one of the discussions, I found out that other parishes who are in similar situations to us, where they're mowing rights of way that don't get mowed otherwise, were getting money from the state to do it. And I'm like, well, we're owed a little bit of money, I think. And so I worked with then Government Affairs Liaison Bo Black, and we worked out the rights-of-way that we're cutting, and based off of, I think it's 3 or 4 cuts a year after grass gets 18 or 20 inches tall, that this is the amount of money that we're allocated. It's not much, but if you think about it, if we'd had that for the past 10 years, it's $500,000. So I figured if they owe it to us, we might as well try to get it. We worked with Connick and Associates on a couple of these, and they were able to work on getting us that money. So we're taking it for whatever it's worth. We'll be putting it towards, the grass cutting in that area for the rights of way that we cut.
So is this compensation for the past grass cutting, or is it for the next year, or not
No,
clear?
unfortunately, I couldn't get 15 million retroactive, but this is just going forward. So one of the things we have to figure out is, do we have to keep getting this language added every year, or does it become standard? If not, if it's not just standard, we'll just have to put it on our to-do list to add every year, but.
Is this how the other jurisdictions were?
Yeah, my understanding is that they had to go through a similar process. To get the money, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that this is the process you go through. Should be automatic, really, but.
Okay. Well, thank you for asking for that. Okay, council members, any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0358. And that passes unanimously. File number 2024-0359, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a federally funded agreement between the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness and St. Charles Parish for funding in the amount of $1,415,547.93 to elevate 9 residential flood-prone structures to prevent further damages and reduce NFIP claims. Ms. Baracco.
This is the first of 2 agreements coming before you tonight for elevating properties. And I did a little homework on the elevations program before I came in tonight. Approximately 66 properties have been elevated in the parish to date. Of those 66, 43 have been elevated in 2020 or later. We currently have 13 properties that are under construction, 40 that are still pending with their approved grants. We have 23 additional properties coming before you tonight between the 2 agreements. We're patiently waiting for the next round to open so that we can solicit additional applicants. We've worked with President Jewell and kind of had discussions about how we're going to get the word out that the applications are open when they do open. And the 23 properties in the agreement tonight have not yet been notified of this award because we're waiting for the fully executed agreement before we do so.
Thank you, Ms. Baracco. File number 2024-0359 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Councilman Pilier.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Ms. Baraka, I know I've asked you this, but I could see it in the application number. This is actually for 2022.
Yes, sir.
And I'm curious as to how they separate the 9 from the 14. Is there some explanation for that?
It's getting the best bang for your buck, the best benefits to get the best scoring award, or grant application. So you put riskier projects
Okay.
together.
So there may be actually 90% or 100%
Could be.
type like that?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And to follow up on your other point, which is how soon do you think the application period for this year might be? If you
So-
had a crystal ball.
Well, we heard that it was going to open a couple of weeks ago, but then we also heard that it's probably going to be after tomorrow.
But it's
I don't know how soon after tomorrow.
But it's likely that there will be an
Yes, sir.
application period.
Yes, sir.
That's wonderful.
We're
to
waiting,
hear.
we're watching.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
If I might elaborate on what you said, there's a benefit cost analysis that's performed on each of the applications, and sometimes it's more beneficial from a scoring perspective to place a property in one application rather than the other. So, thank you, Ms. Baraco. Councilman Mobley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know you mentioned that they hadn't been notified, the property owners?
No,
As
sir.
of yet. Do you have any idea when they will be, I mean, these people are nipping at the bit, you know? They want to know, is it us, is it us, is it us?
We know. We, first step is obviously to get you guys to approve it tonight. Once President Jewell signs it, we'll send it to have it signed. And once we get the fully executed one, that's typically when we do it. If it's starting to take a little longer than we'd like, we will start applying pressure to get that fully executed back.
Thank you.
No problem.
Ms. Baraco, what is the cost share on this one for the applicants?
So it's a mixture. I did not get the actual breakdown.
Okay.
I do have, hold on, it may be in the agreement, I'm sorry. That's the one thing that I didn't write down.
That's
Give me
okay.
1 second.
You can always get back to me with that.
I can
You'd rather
definitely
do
do that,
that.
because I'm trying to think. In this particular one, it looks like the non-fed share of the whole grant is 74,000. So, it looks like probably most of these will be SRL, but I can give you a definitive number
Okay.
if you'd like.
Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0359. Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. That passes unanimously. File number 2024-0360, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a federally funded agreement between the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness and St. Charles Parish for funding in the amount of $2,670,104 to elevate 14 residential flood-prone structures to prevent further damages and reduce NFIP claims. Ms. Baraco.
This is the last time you will hear from me tonight, so I appreciate your time. Again, this is for the remaining 14 identified flood-prone structures to be elevated. And I will also give you the definitive number of properties with what cost share.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ms. Baraco. You can bring back more. It's fine. Any council discussion? File number 2024-0360 is now open for public comment. If there is anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, council members, please cast your votes for file number 2024-0360. Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. And that passes unanimously. Appointments. File number 2024-0345, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Board of Adjustment as the District 1 representative. On Monday, November 18th, 2024, Council Chairman will accept nominations from the District 1 council member to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Miss Olivia Tate. 4-year term to begin December 7th, 2024, and expire on December 7th, 2028. Mrs. Tate has served 2 consecutive terms and cannot be reappointed. File number 2024-0346, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Board of Adjustments as the District 3 representative. On Monday, November 18th, 2024, Council Chairman will accept nominations from the District 3 council member to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mr. Webb J. 4-year term to begin December 7th, 2024, and expire December 7th, 2028. Mr. J has served 2 consecutive terms and cannot be reappointed. File number 2024-0347, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Board of Adjustments as a District 7 representative. On Monday, November 18th, 2024, council chairman will accept nominations from the District 7 council member to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mr. James Robert. Four-year term to begin December 7th, 2024, and expire December 7th, 2028. Meetings, announcements, notices, etc. Meetings. Lafourche Basin Levy District, Wednesday, November 6, 2024, 6 p.m., Lafourche Basin Levy District Office, 21380 Highway 20, Vacherie. Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, November 7th, 6 p.m., Council Chambers. Communications District, 911, Monday, November 18th, 2024, 5 p.m., 222 Joe Louis Lane, Hornville. Pontchartrain Levy District, Monday, November 18th, 2024, 6 p.m., Pontchartrain Levy District Headquarters Complex, 2069 Railroad Avenue, Letcher. St. Charles Parish Council, Monday, November 18th, 2024, 6 p.m., Council Chambers. Announcements. Important dates for the November 5th, 2024 election. Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, Election Day, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Polls will be open. Destrehan Plantation Fall Festival, November 9th through 10th, 2024, Destrehan Plantation. Parish Holiday, November 11th, 2024, Veterans Day. Important dates for the December 7th, 2024 election. Wednesday, November 6th, 2024, last day to register to vote in person or by mail. Saturday, November 16th, 2024, last day to register to vote online at govote.com. Early voting, Friday, November 22nd, 2024, and Saturday, November 23rd, 2024. Monday, November 25th, through Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. And Saturday, November 30th, 2024. Closed Sunday, November 24th, 2024. 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. West Bank Courthouse, 15045 River Road, Hornville. East Bank Arterberry Building, 14564 River Road, New Sarpy. Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024, last day to request absentee by mail ballots. Friday, December 6th, 2024, last day for registrar to receive voted absentee ballots. Saturday, December 7th, 2024, Election Day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Polls will be open. Special matters to be considered by the council. File number 2024-0348, review the 2025 Parish Council meeting schedule, adopt November 18th, 2024. Adjournment. I need a motion and a second to adjourn. Motion by Councilwoman Skiba, second by Councilman Pilier. Please cast your votes to adjourn. Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. And that passes unanimously. On behalf of the Parish Council, we wish everyone a happy Veterans Day. Have a great evening. We are officially adjourned.